Hey everyone, I want to talk about inflation because I do, and this is my channel, so I get to talk about what I want. um, so there's a lot of talk about this will be relevant, I promise. There's a lot of talk about the dollar. The dollar's decreasing in value, is what they say. Gold and silver are way up, and traditionally, I've read it in a couple of different books that gold and silver are considered like havens when U.S. Treasuries and the dollar is shaky, and U.S. Treasuries are a haven for when the stock market's shaky and stuff. It's people wanting to put their money into things that hold value no matter what, and they look at gold and gold especially, silver's in there too. But they look at gold and they go like, "This is valuable." Like, I don't care what you think. It might not be as fungible and transportable and all this other stuff as dollars, but it's good. It's worth something. Um, Now, you're like, what does this have to do with inflation? A lot. It's a lot of underlining stuff. So, how do I want to say this? The dollar. Well, let's just go with this. Inflation. What is inflation? Um, Everyone says inflation is everything getting more expensive all at the same time. That's a pretty common thing that people say is, oh, everything's getting more expensive. That's inflation. Okay, why is everything getting more expensive? Is it because every industry got together and was like, hey, let's charge more? Let's just um, tell everyone they have to pay more. No, because there's too much competition between industries. They'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that, or yeah, I'll do that, and then they keep the price the same, and more of their product sells, whatever. So if we agree, inflation is the value of your currency decreasing. Let's go with that. The definition of inflation: the value of your currency is decreasing. Okay, my dollar is my currency, and it's not as good as it used to be. Uh, let's say it used to be a dollar for a dollar, and now it's a dollar for 98 cents. I lost 2 cents. That sucks. Okay, so inflation. It's not all the prices going up. It's not everything getting. That's a symptom of it because you have to spend more of your crappy dollar or your crappy currency to pay for things. Um, it's very much like, oh, that's why everything's expensive, because my currency isn't worth as much as it used to be. It doesn't have to be the dollar. I live in America, so I'm using the dollar. It could be any currency. Um, so we know that the currency is depreciated in value. Okay, so that's inflation. What causes that? Okay, well, um, making too much of it can cause that. Like a rarity scarcity kind of issue there, where it's like, hey, I have 1,000 American dollars, and everyone likes them. They're great. But let's just go with gold, actually. Hey, I have 100 tons of gold, and then someone comes along and goes, well, I have 1,000,000 tons of gold, and then everyone's like, well, I'm not really gonna pay or exchange equal amounts of value for that. I don't think it's as valuable as it was, because now there's more of it, and it doesn't seem as valuable to me anymore. So that's a common cause to decrease the value of something, is increase, I suppose, the abundance of it, and the availability of it. Now let's go to, oh, the dollar is decreasing in value. That's what a lot of people are scared. Oh no, everyone's running to gold and silver because the dollar is decreasing in value. Okay, well, isn't that just inflation? Like, in a different form, in a different way? Why is it decreasing in value? We didn't print any more of it. Let's just say we didn't print any more of it. Well, there are other factors to the value of something, uh, outside of how much there is of it, like utility. If you can get a lot of utility out of something, there's a higher value placed on it, and that can be subjective as well. But let's say, here's something that is ignored, I guess, in general, is that the United States dollar is, the world reserve currency, and it's not an agreed upon thing. It's just like everyone's using it because it's convenient, it's stable, it's reliable. We We have all these beneficial things attached to using the dollar. It's liquid. I know I can get, I can exchange my currency for a certain amount of that currency, and then I can use that currency to buy other goods and products or other currencies. And so there's a lot of benefit to this stable consistency. They're not going to freeze my bank accounts. They don't do that kind of stuff because, that would jeopardize engagement in the dollar. So when those things start to not be a benefit anymore, the dollar starts to decrease in utility and in decrease in value. People are afraid to hold it because they're like, oh no, America thinks this is bad and I do this. They might freeze my bank accounts. And with our current administration here, 2026, Trump, a lot of people think it's funny and cool. And it's kind of like, it's kind of weird to me, but it's this really rocking the boat, like markets up and down, because he comes out and says, we're going to tax everybody. And then he goes back later and he's like, just kidding. Haha, got you. Or we're going to put tariffs on everyone. What is a tax? Just kidding. It's just these guys over here, unless they do what we say. And he ramps stuff up and he cuts it back. He ramps it up and cuts it back. This causes instability in the monetary system. And this makes other people, and by people I meant to say countries, not like that. And like, you're fucking with our shit because our shit is tied to your shit. So they start to de-dollarize and they start to look for alternatives. This is the same thing in, if you do any microeconomics, a good has a certain level of elasticity to it based on how many substitutions you can have for it. So if you're like, I have to eat French fries with ketchup, and there's only one ketchup out there, then you're probably gonna get that ketchup. But if there's like 4 types of ketchup and you don't really care, you're not brand loyal, you're just like, it just needs to be ketchup, you're gonna all those substitutes you can go to. So with the dollar, people will say, oh, I need to have the dollar, it's how I pay my bills, as a country. Let's pretend we're like Japan or something. And then, the dollar's really unstable and we're not getting the returns, and they're pulling all sorts of stuff and threatening us with more of this and that. And it's like, all right, we got to start, in the short term, we're going to be looking, we're going to play ball, but we're going to be looking. And in the long term, we're going to find extra people to help facilitate our trade the way we do. And if you don't believe me, this is already happening. You can look at what's called the BRICS block. BRICS, and then like a plus, because everybody keeps joining them because the United States has weaponized its dollar for a long time. And BRICS is like Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and then the plus is just everyone who's joined afterwards. What is this? Again, back to inflation. What does this cause? This causes people to flee the dollar. They're like, you know what? It's not worth it. It's shaky right now. Don't want that. And so a lot of these, regular people like you and I don't really have a lot of say in it. We're just gonna be like, all right, I get paid in dollars, so I'm not gonna go change my money into someone else's money. I'll just deal with it. But like these really big institutions and these countries are like, I'm not gonna buy these securities. I'm not gonna buy these bonds, which is debt of the United States. That constricts the economy of the United States because people don't want the dollars. Like other countries don't want it. And the worst thing that can happen to us is if we get our dollars back. We want other people to have our dollars and use them. We don't want them back, especially in large amounts. And we need to fund. America runs on like a deficit kind of debt engine, and we need to fund. We need people to buy our debt in order to fund the things we want at the government level. So it's a whole thing. But I just thought I'd make a longer video trying to explain it. Feel free to pause, ask questions, comment. I don't know. It's important stuff, and it's too difficult and too nuanced, even in a 10-minute video like I made now, to break down. And it's one of those things you kind of just have to, you got to read about it, you got to learn about it, study about it, think about it, and you got to talk about it, and you got to just challenge different ideas about certain structures and perspectives on it. So, all right, well, that's all I have.